Hey everyone, it's Greg, and it's another episode of Unbreakable Spirits. And this episode is called Meeting Michael J. Fox Part 2. Last week I had an episode to talk about Part 1, where I talked about uh, everything Michael J. Fox and the movie Back to the Future means to me. As I said, Back to the Future was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. And this was 1985, and I was 28 years old. And you may ask, why did it take so long to see a movie in the theater? Well, because the movie theaters when I was growing up were not accessible for wheelchairs. So until 1985, when things started changing in our world and places started becoming more accessible to people in wheelchairs, people with special needs. Um, you couldn't see a movie in a theater because most of them had steps and were inaccessible. So that's why it took so long. So Back to the Future, not only did I love the movie, love the concept of time travel, and was a big Michael J. Fox fan even back then from Family Ties. Um, so it all fell into place there. And it was also the first movie I ever went to with a girl other than my mom. So so that's special. And over the years, of course, I admired him even more and more because of the way he has coped with his Parkinson's disease, with a lot of honesty and class and dignity. And I've admired him for a long time because his tireless efforts to find a cure for Parkinson's. And so there's a lot of reasons why I'm a big fan of his. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, last week I found out that he was coming to Philadelphia this weekend for Fan Expo Philly, and it used to be Comic-Con. And anyway, so we were lucky, Holly and I were lucky to get tickets, not only to go to the convention, to the show on Sunday, but to actually meet Michael J. Fox. Now, not only was he going to be there, but Christopher Lloyd, who played Doc Brown in the movie, and Thomas F. Wilson, who played Biff, were scheduled to be there too from the movie. So I got to tell you, we left in the morning and we got down there, no traffic, no problems, parked right across from the convention center in Philly, and went in. It was just I'd never been to an event like that before, so it was eye-opening, to say the least. There were a lot of people dressed up in different costumes. I guess their favorite movie or their favorite uh, superpower, superhero uh, movie or TV show or game, whatever. So a lot of people on the floor. It was sort of disorganized because they gave you a map and everything as to where everything was, but the staff there weren't too in tune with where things were, what was going on. Anyway, we knew we had to be in two places. Okay, uh, the panel, Back to the Future panel, where all the cast members would be on stage taking questions, talking about the movie. That was scheduled to go off at 3 o'clock. So we knew we had to be in line by 2 o'clock, line up, go in and get seated. That's number one. The other thing was the photo op to take a picture with Mike and get an autograph. So, but we weren't sure what time that was. So when we got into the facility, we were asking around what time, and nobody seemed to know. That not too many people even knew where the event was going to be held as far as the panel. They had part of the convention center as the main theater. There was a part where the photo ops occur. There was a part where the vendors were all there with tables, selling all kinds of stuff. And so it took a while until we found out exactly where we needed to go, right? And in the meantime, I gotta tell you, there's all these people all around us dressed like just like Spider-Man and Batman. And there's a guy over there just like it's some sort of an animal. I don't know what it is, from Star Wars, Star Trek, uh, some kind of alien stuff, zombies over here. The guy dressed like the Fred Flintstone with the orange outfit on. Now he wants to stay. And another guy there looked like Fred Munster, Herman Munster. It was just overwhelming, all these people mixing and taking pictures of each other, and it was all kind of weird, but it was cool because that's what they wanted to do. So that's fine, right? So, so it was that in itself was an experience, seeing all this and being in the midst of all that stuff. Anyway, so to make a long story short, we finally found out where we needed to go to see Michael J. Fox. So we went to this booth first to check in. Everything you have to scan your ticket, scan this, scan that. So we got there, and right down the other booth, there was Thomas F. Wilson, the guy who played Biff. By the time I got down to him, he had left, so I didn't get a chance, unfortunately, to meet him. But I'm going to talk about him in a minute. So when we finally got there, the people were very nice. And there was one gentleman who directed us where we needed to go. And we were right at the end. He said, Mike just finished with his solo photos. And we thought we missed it, we were, oh, well. And this whole thing was a package Holly got me for Father's Day. I'm not a father, but I am a daddy to the dogs. So, so this was a present to me to meet Michael J. Fox and to go to the convention. So we thought, oh no, we missed that. He said, the nice lady came out and said, oh, we could still get you in, but do you mind if we take a picture also with Christopher Lloyd? And I'm like, no, I don't mind at all. That's great. To meet Doc Brown too. I wasn't scheduled to take a picture with him, but sure, why not, right? So they take us into this curtain, all black curtains around them. And they take us through one thing. It was like a maze getting into this photo op place, And there's Henry Winkler down the road, the Fonz, he's there, and all kinds of other celebrities. It's from pop culture, were there. And so they take us through this maze, and then we go through this one thing, they open up the curtain, and they're sitting there in this little cubicle, little room, was Michael J. Fox sitting on one side, and Christopher Lloyd sitting on the other side. So, these photo ops are so quick to get you in and get you out, bang, bang, bang. And I don't blame them because they had so many people, who wanted to get in and just to take pictures. So you really couldn't say much to these guys, and they just whisked you in and out and in and out. But I was able to, when I got next to Michael J. Fox, I said, hey, Mike, my name is Greg. Nice to meet you, blah, blah. They said, 1, 2, 3, take the picture, da, da, da. They're already, get out, right? So, but what I did was I gave them a copy of my book, Unbreakable Spirit, because in the book, I do talk about him a few times. I mentioned about Back to the Future being my first movie that I actually saw in the theater. And later on, I talk about how he is he's an example of courage and inspiration to me, to everyone else. So, but I was handing him the book, and he said, no, they said, no, give it to there was a guy, there was a lot of people in this little cubicle, and I guess publicists, assistants, bodyguards, therapists, maybe, and it's this one muscular young guy who took the book, and I don't know whether he was an assistant or what, but I heard Mike say, thanks, Greg. And so that was about it. I didn't really have a chance to tell him what I wanted to tell him. But what I did was I wrote a little note to him, which I stuck in the front of the book. I signed the book to Mike, my Unbreakable. Sorry, Greg. And he wrote a note in there and was telling him what I wanted to tell him. Thank God I did, because I didn't really have a chance to tell him what I wanted to tell him about what an inspiration has been to me over the years. So I'm glad I wrote it down, and hopefully he read it. So after that, what I got to show you the proof. So what I got was this picture. There, see it? I did a section velocity showing. And there's me, there's Holly in the back. There's Michael J. Fox right there. Yeah, and there's Christopher Lloyd. Nice, huh? I look like I'm 400 pounds there, which but the shirt was a little tight, my Back to the Future shirt. But there he is. So a dream come true. Who says that dreams don't come true, right? There you go. I gotta say, Christopher Lloyd seemed very nice, but he didn't say a word. He was very quiet. It seemed like he was zoned out there. Maybe from taking pictures all weekend, But I gotta say, when we saw him in the panel, he sounded like he was very hard of hearing. I mean, the guy's 84 years old, right? But every question that the moderator asked him, he was like, say again, he couldn't hear. And I think he's still with it. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's hard to hear. And I don't know if he has hearing aids or not, but so he was very quiet, but nice. And before we talk about the panel, here's the autograph that I got. There it is, the two icons, the two legends there from Back to the Future, and Michael J. Fox signature. There you go. So these are things I want to frame and memories, right? Here I am, 66 years old, and yesterday was one of the highlights of my life. So, no matter how old you are, no matter what, there's still highlights, and still a lot of life to live, and a lot of you never know what's going to happen, right? Just the other day, we knew, and this came up within 5 days, who knows, right? Anyway, we went to the panel, and that was a lot of fun. Now I got to say something about that panel. First of all, I wasn't very organized. It was a shame, because there were other people in my situation with wheelchairs there who didn't get seats. They were seated on the side of the stage. They could still see everything, and they had people, deaf people who were doing side languages there for other people in the audience who may be hearing impaired. And it looked like to be some of these fans who were hearing impaired who were sitting on the side. It just wasn't organized enough to the fact that with ADA, people who needed special locations so they could see, so people wouldn't stand up in front of them. It just wasn't organized very well to situate people either in wheelchairs or people who needed to be close to a sign language interpreter. Um, and they finally worked it out, but it could have been better, you know. But what are you going to do? The panel itself was great. Um, Again, they had a moderator and they had Mike up there, and they had Christopher Lloyd and Tom Wilson. And again, Christopher Lloyd was pretty quiet during the whole thing. And Tom Wilson, I got to give him credit. Biff, I didn't get a chance to meet him, but next time I absolutely will. First of all, he's a Philadelphia guy. You got to love him for that. In fact, he said he grew up only 2 blocks away from where the convention center is. And it's very touching. So a lot of the things that he talked about, he said, you know, he was the villain in movies, in the 3 movies. But, you know, he said he was bullied as a kid. He was sick as a kid and he was bullied. And he was almost imitating the bullies who bullied him when he played Biff. Because, you know, Tom Wilson is not a bully, he's not that kind of a guy. But in order to play the role, he was just imitating the way he was born, you know, and he really came across as not only funny, he's a stand-up comedian, but very touching and very caring. He gave time, he really carried the panel because Mike, you know, it's with his movements because of Parkinson's, he was able to talk, of course, and articulating, very witty, but you know, it's you can see it's hard for me, you know, it's very hard. He said it's getting harder, you know, and so God bless Biff, Tom Wilson, really was very empathetic and very gracious with letting Michael speak, taking as much time as he needed. Between Chris's hearing impaired, you know, he was, Tom really carried the panel very well. So, you know, kudos to Biff out there. He was very funny too. When he first came on stage, he said, "Oh, I'm from Philly, you know, Philly." And he started singing Philadelphia Freedom, Elton John's Philadelphia Freedom. And Michael J. Fox always all of a sudden blurted out, "Oh, Canada," because he's from Canada. So it was a lot of fun. They talked about the movies. There were different questions. They said, one interesting question was, how much did you ad lib during the Back to the Future movies? They said a little bit, but because these scripts were so intricate and the plot, you know, was all these Back to the Future movies were just so well written, as I've mentioned before, everything seemed to fit into place. And so the first half of the movie, setting things up, they basically had to stick to the script. But later in the movie, they were a little more free to improvise. In fact, the one line there, you know, 2 things Biff was supposed to say. It's, you know, in the movies, Biff always called people buttheads. What are you looking at, butthead? Butthead. And he was originally in the script was supposed to say a-hole, who I won't say, but but Tom said, "Ah, you know, this guy's supposed to be real stupid." And so, you know, that's too easy to say a-hole. Let's say butthead. You're a butthead. And that's how that came to be. And Tom said he takes credit for the word butthead, inventing the word butthead, even before Beavis and Butthead. You know, so that was cool. And then there's a phrase in the movie where Biff is supposed to say, "Make like a tree and leaf." leave, to leave. And but Tom said, no, no, Biff is really stupid. So let's have him say, make like a tree and get out of here, which doesn't make any sense at all. No. So, but it stuck. It stuck in the script, you know. So that was cool. I want to mention one thing though, because this morning I was reading about some newspaper, but there were a bunch of reporters there, photographers, who were kneeling, sitting on the floor right in front of the stage, not blocking anyone's view, but to get pictures of all these icons on stage. I mean, how often do you see Michael J. Fox right there in the flesh, and Christopher Lloyd, and even Tom? So he took a bunch of pictures. What happened was, as the panel started, they introduced the cast, and Tom came out first, and then Chris, and then they said, and last but certainly not least, Michael J. Fox. Mike came out, and I guess he tried to be funny, I don't know, but he started doing the I'm not worthy thing, I'm not worthy, to the other two guys, to Chris and to Tom. But as he did that, he lost his balance and he almost fell. They had a microphone set up for him. So they'd have to hold a hand mic. They had a microphone set up for him on the floor, on the stand. So he could just talk into the mic. Well, he knocked that over. Luckily, he didn't fall on the floor. He kind of dove into the couch. They had a couch there, and they had a single chair for the moderator and a single chair on the other side for Tom. So luckily, Mike wasn't hurt. And it was stunning when we saw it. Of course, we were all concerned about him that he wasn't hurt. But everybody saw he was okay, and the show went on, right? No big deal. And we figured that was just part of his, you know, in the documentary Still, which is excellent, which I saw a few weeks ago. He talks about how he is down the stage where he is falling more, losing his balance more, and he's breaking bones. And I said, well, that's one thing I can relate to, breaking bones, right? So luckily he wasn't hurt, and things went on. But this morning I read in one of the banks or newspapers, I think I won't even mention it, something about tragic fall in Philadelphia. Michael J. Fox, tragic, you know, of his Parkinson. Well, what they failed to mention, they said we were told, they had pictures of it. We were told, yeah, we were told this is what happened. But they didn't, they didn't really say what really happened. The media, they just said, they talked about the fall, but they didn't mention at all that he was doing the I'm not worthy kind of thing, and that's what threw him off balance, that he fell. It wasn't the fact that he just came out on stage and fell. He came out and tripped him or something that was on the floor. It did happen that, but he lost his balance. So I just wanted to, I tweeted that out too, and I wanted to mention that on the podcast. And that's what happened. So if you read anything or you see anything on the news that Michael J. Fox had this tragic fall on stage in Philadelphia, his Parkinson's is getting worse, blah, blah, blah. Don't believe it, okay? Don't believe it. Yes, he did fall, but it was because he did something that made him fall. He lost his balance. He ended up in the couch, and he was okay. Thank God he took that. So, but it's always got to be something, right? anyway, it ended up being one of the best days of my life. And because it was a lot of fun, thanks to Holly, she took me down and we had a lot of fun together. And it was great. And who knows whether I'll ever have the opportunity to meet him again. Um, but I just want to say thanks, Mike, for not only yesterday for coming to Philadelphia. I hope you come back, but for all the joy you've given not only to me, but all the fans out there, and the inspiration. And I just wanted to thank you for that, and the other guys too. Now, so I'll have the memorabilia to always remember, and it was a fun time. It was really a lot of fun. So I just wanted to give you guys the scoop as to what happened. Um, I did put my contact information inside of the book, so who knows? If I hear from Mike, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I'm just happy I was there and at least got to see him face to face. So that was kind of cool. So, well, I'll be back again sometime soon to have another episode of Unbreakable Spirits. Hope to share more laughs and more inspiration and more hope out there. And you guys have a great day and be kind to one another. And I'll see you all again soon. Okay, take care for now. Bye bye.